Hi everyone and welcome to another handheld gaming video. This time I got my hands on the ROG Ally and I thought I'd try out some racing games. I did this before on the Steam Deck. I was really impressed with the performance on the Steam Deck, and this time I thought, well, the Ally has quite a lot of more performance, so I try out some of the games that I did on the Steam Deck back then, and so that we have kind of a small comparison between the both devices, and also try out some of the newer games that I just bought in the recent times instead. So just to get some things out of the way first, I will run the Ally at maximum TDP, which is 30 watts. You may also run it at lower TDPs, but I noticed that there isn't then that much of a gap versus the Steam Deck, and if you're really after a long battery life, you should also consider the Steam Deck, because in my experience it lasts even sometimes a bit longer than the Ally. But I use it most of the time at an outlet anyway, so that's the reason I will test it with full tilt power, because so we can see what the Ally can actually produce in gaming performance and how it holds up against the Steam Deck here. So first up is Dirt 4, and last time where I tested on the Steam Deck I used a mixture of high to medium settings. This time we're getting using the full very high settings preset, so no compromises there. And video wise I'm at 1080p native. I'm don't using MSAA because at this resolution I don't think it's really necessary, and using 8 times anisotropic filtering. So very high settings, much higher than on the Steam Deck back then. Let's see how it runs. So as you can see, we are in the stage now and hovering around 40 to 50 FPS here. Of course we are using much higher settings than back on the Steam Deck back then. And because of the very refresh rate, I still think it holds up pretty well. It's easy, it's pretty good to control. It looks absolutely stunning. What I will do is I'll drop the settings to just high to see if we may gain some FPS here, because very high is maybe not that worth it on the small screen anyway. So I'm now switching to the high preset, and let's see, we're now constantly close to 60. Now we're already over 60, so we are at high settings, 1080p native resolution, and yeah, still looks reasonably good. Controls very well indeed, and yeah, it's pretty easily playable on this device. It was expected because it ran pretty good on the Steam Deck as well, but here we have it at native 1080p resolution. Really beautiful game, I think, for a handheld, and yeah, runs pretty nice, so definitely a recommendation if you have the Ally and looking for a rally game. So next up we have WRC 7. It's a little bit older now, but I used this also on the Steam Deck because it was compatible back then, and so I thought we also try it here on the Ally. I'm having, quickly go into the settings here. I've opted for 1080p. I currently disabled VSync, so this just otherwise it sticks to 60 FPS for some strange reason, and I just want to see how far we can push the FPS. Also I have everything on high. Back on the deck we had it on medium at 800p. So let's see in the stage how it holds up here. So I'm now in the stage here, high settings, 1080p native, and we are at 85 FPS. So really good experience here. Yeah, again, older title, but still looks pretty decent, I think. And yeah, we are constantly about above 80 or 70 FPS. I think we could even push settings further if that's possible. Let me check. It already looks pretty decent, so this is just if it's possible we can try. Yeah, very high. Let's go to very high everywhere. Also post-processing, let's see. So now we are at almost 60, not quite, still pretty playable because of the VRR display. Of course it's a little bit overkill, I think. Yeah, now we are also dipping a little bit into the 40s here. Yeah, I think high is pretty good already, so it's just a little bit overkill, but you could do so if you really want to and get this really very high experience here in this game. Yeah, it looks really decent, I think. Controls also pretty good. Yeah, a little bit hard to drive and while talking, you know. But yeah, I think it's really decent game. Was also expected that it runs pretty decent on the Ally. But yeah, here it is, running 1080p native, really good experience. Also something I could easily recommend for this handheld. So next up we have Project Cars 3, and I'm running at 1080p native, medium settings, some even on low, and high textures. I run this game also on the Steam Deck, and there I had to opt for mostly low settings in order to achieve a playable 60 FPS frame rate. So let's see how it fares here on the Ally. So I'm now in the game here, and as you can see we are having quite high FPS here, 76 at the moment. Runs pretty decent this game. Could maybe even have used higher settings than this, I suspect. But yeah, still though it looks pretty good, runs pretty well. I'm not sure if the FPS might dipping a little bit more if we have a real race going on. So at the moment this is single player, or I'm the only car here on the track. But I could imagine if there are weather effects kicking in, it's getting much slower than this. But yeah, it's really decent, looks pretty good, really good experience. Also like performance wise pretty impressive, because I had some trouble here, as I mentioned, on the Steam Deck to get it really stable, to use very low settings here, and so here with medium and 1080p native and still way above 60 at the moment, really impressive. Yeah. So next up is Project Cars 2, and as I tested this on the Steam Deck, I had a mixture of medium to low settings to hit mostly 60 FPS at times, and here I have full 1080p and a mixture of medium settings with high textures. And as you can see, I'm currently in a race here, and if we continue, you can see that we are mostly in the 50 range FPS wise. Sometimes it's getting even higher than 60 FPS, yeah, and due to the variable refresh rate it feels really smooth. There's nothing to worry if you drop below the 60 FPS mark here. And yeah, the game looks really good. I think even for today's standards, at 1080p it looks really sharp on the Ally's display, and it controls very smooth, it runs pretty flawlessly in a roll, and yeah, it's a game that I can easily recommend to play on the Ally. It works pretty nicely here. So next up is Forza Horizon 5. Back then I didn't test it on the Steam Deck because I just bought it recently. We are at 1080p native, 120 FPS mode. I opted for native resolution. The good thing is this also supports FSR2 upscaling. We can test this shortly, but I'm at native 1080p, 2x MSAA, so should be really smooth. And graphics wise, I'm using the high preset, but I even opted some options to be even higher, like the SSAO, ambient occlusion, and night shadows as well. And with these settings, let's just go into the game here. We are at 50 FPS, and yeah, of course it's Forza at high settings, so as you expect it looks really good. Just quickly check in here. So we are at 50, we are not above 60. I guess when we are in a race, it will dip a little bit. So here in the open world we are at 60, as you can see, but I suspect that when we are in a race we would dip below 60. I will quickly go into a race here and then we'll check out how it runs. So I'm now in a race, and as you can see we are quite dipping a little bit. It's still not too bad, I would argue. We are above 40, and due to the VRR it's okay-ish, I would say. We could try to use FSR instead of the MSAA, so we're basically using a lower rendering resolution. I will try this right now, enabling FSR maybe in balance mode here, saving it. Okay, so now FSR2 balance is enabled and we are above 50 FPS, 52 in fact. And yeah, it's definitely smoother. It looks a little bit more blurry, edgy, I would argue. Not too bad, honestly, still okay. But especially like these power lines, if you look at them, they definitely look a little bit edgy. So FSR2 doesn't seem to do this much in this particular game, but yeah, definitely playable, I would say. And what's also cool is, since we are running Windows on the Ally, of course we could enable ray tracing, and just for fun, let's try this and enable ray tracing here. And if we set it to ultra extreme, it's even enabled in game, otherwise it's just in Forza Vista. So now RT is enabled. You probably don't see much of a difference, just our FPS now dropped a little bit, but we are still above 40, and maybe we can switch to the camera mode here, or photo mode, and you can now see, if we look here in the reflections, that we now having self-reflections. Like if you look here, you can see that the mirror is reflecting in the car itself, which looks really cool. And yeah, again, this is an handheld and we are running RT based effects, and still like at 30, 40 FPS. I wouldn't necessarily argue that you should do this for racing, because the performance penalty is probably not worth it most of the time. But yeah, just seeing this, it's really cool and really impressive how far we've come in this handheld gaming. So the last game for this video is WRC Generations, which is the latest entry in the WRC series. It was just released 2022, so it's a pretty new title. I have medium settings and I have post-processing also on medium. I even have it set to 720p, because you will quickly see why. Just try to go to 120 Hz here. And I will go into a stage now and you will see why I have reduced the settings. Okay, so we are now in the stage here again, 720p medium settings, 58 FPS. So we are not having that much performance here. I have to drop down quite a lot, and I will quickly go to 1080p just in a second. You may also see, sorry, that it's pretty flickery because of the relatively low resolution. It's the first game we have opted for 720p in fact. And I will quickly now switch to 1080, so native display resolution. And you might see that it's not too great. We are at 30 FPS, 38 here and there. Oh, now I've turned around here, and yeah, I'm not sure with this game, to be honest. It doesn't look that much different than WRC 7, and it just doesn't run that well. And we are on medium settings and there's no upscaling, and the loading times are also pretty bad, at least on the Ally. It's really a game, just from the gaming perspective, that I can't recommend, but especially on the Ally, since it runs pretty poorly, doesn't look that great as compared to what it needs in terms of performance here. And the loading times are just really annoying. Then you have all this team management, you're always waiting for these areas to load in, and it's just not a great experience. I didn't play it that long so far, and to be honest, it's not a game that I would recommend for the Ally at the moment. There are the other WRC games which I basically prefer. They run better, they feel basically the same when driving and so on. They have pretty similar stages and everything. So that's just something I can't recommend. But it's the newest game here, and you can see we could even run it at 1080. Just let me quickly show you. We can go to low settings, but at this point really it looks not too great. You have a lot of pop-in then going on, and now with low settings we are still in the 40s only, and yeah, I don't know, it doesn't feel too good. I mean, if you compare it to the other games we saw so far, like Project Cars or Forza, and how they look and how they run at these settings, and how this looks and runs, and the pop-in, if you just look at the vegetation and the foliage, now at low everything is popping in right in front of you, and just it's distracting while driving. I don't really like it. Yeah, that's this for this game. Again, of course it runs on the Ally, it's definitely playable, but not the game that I would recommend at the moment. So yeah, and that's that. I hope you enjoyed watching some of the games and seeing how they perform on the Ally. Just some of my final thoughts here. Well, first of all, I didn't expect much of a performance bump compared to the Steam Deck. I could actually imagine that it's really twice the performance. I haven't benchmarked it, but I have seen that some games running at 1080p and even on higher settings achieving the same or more FPS was really impressive. Secondly, from the standpoint of the software, I really don't like the Ally at the moment. The real Windows stuff is just not really great on the handheld. This sleep and resume on the Steam Deck is just great, and it's completely absent here. You have standby, but it takes quite a while, and sometimes the game is minimized, and all of this weird stuff that doesn't feel that great at the moment. I really hope that they improve the software, or maybe there is a fork of SteamOS which runs flawlessly on the Ally in the future, maybe. But that's something to consider. If you are really after this simple, straightforward gaming experience, it's really hard to recommend the Ally over the Steam Deck at the moment. It's just my personal opinion on this. Yeah, otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this video. I may plan to make a video where I actually connect the racing wheel to the Ally and dock it on a large 4K TV. So if you are interested in some experiment like this, let me know in the comments below. And other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video and see you soon in one of the next. Bye.